I'd like to call the April 7th Board of Selectmen's meeting to order at 6:33. Mr. Town Manager, do we have a need for a non-public session?
Good evening, Madam Chairperson. We do under RSA 91A3, Roman numeral 2, lowercase e, pending litigation.
Okay. And I have a little thing I need to read since this is a virtual and in-person meeting. Good evening and welcome to the April 7th meeting of the Board of Selectmen. Due to the COVID-19 coronavirus crisis and in accordance with the Governor's new news emergency order number 12 pursuant to executive order number 2020-04, this board is authorized to meet electronically. However, the committee has jointly decided to proceed with a hybrid meeting format, allowing for members of the public and the board to attend and participate in the meeting in person or virtually. But all the members of the Board of Selectmen are here tonight. Votes taken during this meeting will be via roll call vote for all members in accordance with Emergency Order 12. For members of the public, this is to confirm that we are present, providing public access to the meeting by telephone with additional access possibilities by video and other electronic means through GoToMeeting. All members of the public and the board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during the meeting through the GoToMeeting platform, and the public has access to the contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate in this meeting through dialing the following phone number, #1 646 749-3122, followed by the audio access code 447-550-261, or by video following the directions on the Town of Wolfeboro website posted on the home page under Virtual Town Meeting Login Information page. Providing public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting, we previously gave notice to the public of how to access the meeting in person or using GoToMeeting, and instructions are provided on the Town of Wolfeboro website at wolfeboronh.us on the Virtual Town Meeting Login page. Providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anybody has a problem accessing the meeting by phone or computer, immediately call 603-387-8259, and that is my cell phone number. In the event that the public is unable to access the meeting, we will adjourn the meeting and have it rescheduled at another time. Roll call vote. Brad?
Here.
Luke?
Here.
Brian?
Here.
Dave?
Here.
And I am here, Linda Murray. I'm going to remind members of the Board of Selectmen to keep their microphones close so everybody can hear. Okay. First item on the agenda, minutes of the March 3rd meeting. Does anybody have any corrections or changes? I do. On page 6, the Reggie refund is .00674, and I think it was written on the minutes. On page 8, from the top, it is the second paragraph, Mrs. Murray. The end of the third sentence should read, "We talked about the Friends of the Libby Museum paying 70% of the full expansion and the town paying 30% of the full expansion." Then line 9, committed to the next major project being the town's public safety building, but I was speaking only as one selectman, so it'll have to go back to the board. And then on page 9, under the town manager's report, it starts with Mr. Ford and I would like to replace she with Janine Gillian. Does anybody else have any other changes? Hearing none, I'd like a motion to accept as amended.
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Brian? Yes?
Yes.
Luke?
I'll abstain.
You'll abstain? Dave?
Yes.
And Brad?
Yes.
And Linda is yes. Okay. Next meeting minutes is the March 17th, 2021. Does anybody have any changes? I have one on page 7, top of the page, Mrs. Murray, paragraph 3rd line. It should read, the insurance certificate says Dive Winnie, so we will need one with the town of Wolfeboro as co-insured. That's the only change I have. Anybody else? Hearing none, can I have a motion?
We approve the minutes of March 17th as amended.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Brian?
Yes.
Luke?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
And Linda's yes. Okay, moving right along. Next item on the agenda is the public hearings. And the first one is the Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen to consider a temporary event permit for the Daniel Webster Council of the Boy Scouts America to host the 37th Annual Winnie Derby Fishing Tournament from May 14th, 2021 to May 16th, 2021 from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. Friday and Saturday, and 8 a.m. to noon Sunday. Do I have anybody in the audience who'd like to speak to that event? Okay, I'll open up the public hearing. Anybody? I'll close the public hearing. Board members, what would you like to do? We have nobody here to speak to this event, yet it's one that has run a number of times in Wolfeboro.
Yeah, I'll move to approve the temporary event permit for the Daniel Webster Council of Boy Scouts of America to host 37th Annual Winnie Derby Fishing Tournament, May 14th, 2021 to May 16th, 2021 from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. Friday and Saturday, 8 a.m. to noon Sunday, per COVID-19 governor orders at the time.
I'll second that.
Okay, that was Dave, and Brett is seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Brian?
Yes.
Luke?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
And Linda votes yes. Okay, the next public hearing is the Wolfeboro Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, April 7th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. virtually for the acceptance of unanticipated funds in excess of $10,000 in accordance with RSA 3195B3A relative to an anonymous donation in the amount of $66,500 to be posted to line 1-42100.380 outside services in the police department budget to purchase and outfit an electric vehicle for the use of the town police department. My understanding, virtually, we have Mr. Wood, Chairman of the Police Commission here.
Thank you, Linda. Well, I made this presentation in some detail at the meeting on the 17th. I'll keep this presentation a bit briefer. The town of Wolfeboro is basically, or essentially, has the opportunity to be the recipients of the donation of a free automobile. In this particular case, it will be a Tesla Model Y all-electric vehicle. The donation is from a young family, a local family wishing to remain anonymous at this time. It's a sizable donation because it includes the price of the automobile itself, as well as transportation, document costs, and so forth associated with the vehicle to get it to Wolfeboro. It'll then go to Newington to be upfitted as a typical police cruiser would be, with all ancillary equipment, to include things like the lights, the siren, brand new mobile radio, full graphics package, and so forth. The vehicle will be assigned to Captain Livy, so it will be used jointly between administrative and patrol duties. With Captain Libby, he does do quite a bit of patrol work, filling in vacant shifts, obviously benefit to the town. And it'll also include a Tesla charger installed at the police station. The price is inclusive of that being installed by a professional electrician recognized by the town. So obviously a great opportunity for us as a police department to analyze an electric vehicle to see its versatility within our community. We can track data as to what we anticipate will be significant savings in gasoline and maintenance costs. Savings that have been realized from police departments across the country doing similar programs. Most of them, or pretty much all of them, have had to purchase their own cars, so we're very fortunate that we haven't. Some communities are trying to take a green initiative, if you will, but they are purchasing cars. One that was just put in service to ourselves in Ipswich, Mass. They bought a Model Y, but they are fortunate. They have a municipal electric department, as we do here in Wolfeboro. They were able to get a sizable grant from the electric department and some other donations, so it significantly defrayed the cost. What we're seeing now is Teslas are starting to pop up all over the country, and a lot of police departments are looking at, utilizing these vehicles and after determining their worth and their functionality in their department. I want to keep this very brief tonight. It's an exceptional opportunity for the town of Wolfeboro to a brand new car that the police department will be able to utilize to track the data, just a viable alternative to cruisers in the future.
Okay, I'd like to open up the public hearing. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak to this public hearing? Hearing and seeing none, I'd like to have a motion.
Yeah, I'll make a motion. Motion to accept an anonymous cash donation.
Second. What?
Can we ask a few questions first?
Sure.
Okay. Steve, thank you for the presentation. I just had a couple questions. I think it's great, and it's wonderful that someone in this community is so thoughtful, and what an amazing opportunity for the police department to be able to get one of these vehicles and test it out. One of my questions was, I think in your last presentation, we talked a lot about this being a very unique opportunity for Wolfeboro, and an opportunity to test out electric vehicles and see how well they work, and maybe the department in the future utilizes more electric resources and battery operated vehicles. I'm just curious. I have a lot of respect for Captain Livy, but I would have just thought that if this was going to be a true test of a vehicle, and I noticed you did say that Captain Livy does patrol, but I would think that if we were going to really test this vehicle, this would be like a showpiece for Wolfeboro. So it would be out on patrol every single day. It's going to be a high visibility item. It's going to be the showpiece of the police department, and I just was wondering, had you thought about, if it's a true test, like really getting it out there just as a patrol vehicle, and what the thinking was behind having the captain drive it?
Well, to be perfectly frank, Luke, and to answer your question, when I approached Chief Rondo and offered this donation, potential donation, would they accept it? Would they be able to utilize it? Would they be willing to do that? Obviously, they're very willing to do that. Our first thought was to to put it in the detective's hands. But then the thought process changed because the reason I guess they thought about the detective using it is for longevity purposes. But if it were the detective's car, it would not have markings on it, and nobody would really know. So with it being utilized in joint service with Captain Libby, it will have a full graphics package. People will recognize that it's a Wolfeboro police cruiser. It will be doing typical police work as cruisers do, but, and this is the frank part, Chief Rondo or any police chief in the state of New Hampshire has full autonomy, full authority to deploy their resources, both personnel and equipment-wise, without interference from any outside, which means even as a chair of the police commission, I can't tell the chief who should get a cruiser, who shouldn't, and so forth. They've thought this through, and I believe that they feel, in discussions that I've had with them, that it's a good way to introduce this car. It's not to say that the use won't change down the road, that maybe it would become more of a full-time patrol car. But as you know, being donated, we wanted to take the opportunity, graciously and gratefully, and move forward with starting to track data and seeing how well we can do with saving fuel costs, saving maintenance costs, and so forth. So I guess the better answer would have to talk with the chief about that. That's more within his purview, not mine.
Well,
But it's a good.
I appreciate the answer. I was just looking for some clarity for the public. And just one follow-up question on that is, I assume we're going to be able, and I assume this is done anyways, but with particular to this vehicle, that will be tracking, not only maintenance costs and all that stuff, but to give it a good idea of what we're going to be using in the future. If we get more of these, track the electrical usage, track, how much we're really getting from a charge and items like that. I think this is, I think it's key that we, with this test of this vehicle and this luxury that we have that someone has donated, that we, carefully track it throughout its life, so we can decide in the future, moving forward.
Well, that's actually the intent, is to track all of those things that you mentioned. One thing I'd like to share with you, and I'm probably going to butcher the name of this community, but they were the first police department in the United States. I believe it's Bargersville, Indiana. They tracked the data August of 19th to August of 2020 with regard to fuel costs and maintenance costs and so forth. And when you're talking about a Tesla automobile, you're talking 20 moving parts versus 2,000 in an internal combustion engine vehicle. So they found that their overall, I'm just going to keep it brief, their overall for 1 year, and they have been utilizing Dodge Chargers, which they can purchase cheaper than we can a Ford Explorer or a Ford Explorer Hybrid. But they are quite, and they bought Model 3s. They're quite convinced that they'll break even after 2 years. That 1 year period that they tracked, their combined fuel and maintenance costs, which maintenance was pretty much nil, was about $7,600 compared to $825 for the Tesla, which was the electricity and any maintenance, for a difference of about $6,800. They are, pretty high on Teslas, and they're talking about getting more. I've had discussions with people from Tesla as well as other police departments that are utilizing the Teslas to get feedback from them. Unfortunately, to our south in Ipswich, Mass, they use their municipal electric department to help them calculate data to help them determine if it would be a viable purchase. They could anticipate for savings in electricity and so forth, and they broke that out. It's interesting because in the one that Ipswich did, compared to Bargersville, in one of their graphics, they show 49,000 pounds of carbon being released by a Ford Explorer, or the Dodge Charger, or by a Ford Explorer is what they utilize for that one. compared to basically nothing out of the Tesla. In Ipswich, Mass, I talked to Nikas yesterday, they projected out the cost for fuel, as well as the carbon footprint that the car would leave, and again, sizable differences. And, you know, so, well, I guess the short answer is yes, we're going to be tracking all that information, and we've been, you know, I've been getting involved more in looking at what other police departments are doing to track that information, so that we can do it in the best possible way and be, you know, we want to be very transparent. We also want to be very thorough with that information, because if we do come forward in a couple of years or three, whatever the case may be, to actually purchase one for the town, we obviously won't have all our ducks in a row and be able to answer all those hard questions.
Chief Rondo, do you want to add some more?
I do. Two things. Before we put it in patrol, Mr. Selectman, we've got to assess the vehicle, the pros and cons, number one. Number two, probably most importantly, there's no cage. If a vehicle is in patrol, that officer has to be able to utilize that vehicle in making an arrest and transporting to either the jail or to the Wolfeboro PD. Right now, there's no cage made for that vehicle. I don't want to go in and fabricate one. So I'm sure in the next year or two, cages for those vehicles will come out that are going to be approved. But until that time, it makes sense to do what we're doing right now, and this will give us an opportunity to take a look at the data and do everything that the commission chair has said.
Brian?
Steve, would there be money in the budget to put a dedicated meter on the charger so we can track the exact kilowatts that the vehicle is using being charged?
That was not part of the plan, and the reason being that it was going to take obviously more money to do that, and then looking down the road at a new police station, you know, having a charger there, we could, at that point, we could meter it separately. It could be done. I didn't do the cost estimate with the electrician to do something like that.
I think it would be relatively inexpensive. They do make them fairly inexpensive nowadays.
But I mean, I can talk with the electrician and we can see. I mean, we're not against it. I can tell you that. And we can accomplish that without too much difficulty. The problem that we had too was, you know, what panel to come off from at the public safety building, because most of the panels are pretty well maxed out. But as far as getting the meter, we can get some kind of metering device in there to actually track what we're putting into the car, absolutely.
Yeah, I made this comment. We did see this public hearing last meeting, and we did table it. But I made the comment then that this meets one of the goals of the town's master plan for electricity use or energy use, and we're trying to cut that by 50%. So I am really pleased and excited that the police department is doing it. The Energy Committee is looking to put in some charging stations down at the Glendon Street parking lot, and we're lucky that this gift has been given to the town. Are there any other comments by the board? Hearing none. Mr. Senical, you have a motion.
Yes, I do. A motion to accept an anonymous cash donation in the amount of $66,500 to be used to purchase 2021 Tesla Model Y SUV to be utilized by the Wolfeboro Police Department. This donation will be booked to donations, police account 01-35080-421. The purchase of the vehicle will be charged to Police Vehicle Capital Outlay account 01-49621-113, which will be funded by this donation.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Brad Harriman. Any further discussion or questions by the board? Brian?
Yes.
Luke?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
And Linda votes yes. All righty, we'll move on to the next public hearing. The Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, April 7th, 2021, at 6:30 p.m. virtually for the acceptance of unanticipated funds less than $10,000 in accordance with RSA 3195-B3A relative to a donation of a Apex electric mountain bike patrol version for our mountain bike patrol program at approximately $5,800 value from David Thayer, owner, manager of Coyote Creek Sport Shop in Rochester, New Hampshire. Chief?
Thank you very much. So obviously the Wolfeboro PD is going green. We have this donation from Mr. David Thayer of Coyote Creek Outfitters. He wishes to donate a Quiet Cat Apex police mountain bike to the Wolfeboro Police Department, similar to those in the pictures that have been provided to the Board of Selectmen already. The bike has a 1,000-watt e-motor, front fork suspension, aggressive heavy-duty Kendra tires, police light package, police decals, saddle, storage bags, and the rest of the equipment and accoutrements that would go on a police mountain bike. The Apex can reach top speeds of 35 miles per hour and has a 21-mile run time. It only takes 4 hours for the motor to be completely charged. This is the ultimate police bike. This bike can cycle between electronic version and pedal version. So this obviously will add quite a bit of capability and capacity to our police mountain bike unit that we're hoping to get out this summer. And the owner is also coming up with 2 other police mountain bikes, and he's going to take my mountain bike unit, including this one that he wishes to donate through what is called new equipment training, so make sure they're capable and certified. My mountain bike officers, also including myself, have all been to mountain bike police school. So everybody is more than capable of doing mountain bike police work. It's not for everybody, but the school is quite grueling, but I have a number of officers that have been through it, and this will give us an incredible capability. Subject to your questions.
Thank you, Chief. I'll open up the public hearing. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak to this mountain bike? Hearing and seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Board members, anybody have any comments or questions to ask the chief? Brian?
Chief, does it come with a charger?
Yes, it definitely comes with all the equipment needed to charge the bike.
Okay.
Again, we're very lucky that we have received this donation. I have some friends who have electric bikes and love going out on them. I think it will add another dimension to our patrolling, particularly this summer in our downtown and maybe out to some of our beaches, and I really appreciate this. With no other comments, can I have a motion?
I'll make the motion to move to accept unanticipated funds for the amount awarded that is less than $10,000 in accordance with RSA 31:95-B relative to the donation of an Apex E electric mountain bike police version package for our mountain bike patrol program, an approximate $5,800 value from Mr. David Thayer, owner and manager of Coyote Creek Sports Shop in Rochester, New Hampshire.
I second.
Okay, the motion was by Luke and seconded by Brian. Any other comments? Hearing none. Brian?
Yes.
Luke?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
And Linda votes yes. We're on to our next public hearing. The Town of Wolfeboro to hold a public hearing on Wednesday, April 7th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. for the acceptance of an unanticipated fund in the amount more than $10,000 in accordance with RSA 31:95B3A to accept an amount of $12,300 from the New Hampshire Department of Safety for the Wolfeboro Highway Safety Grant. Chief.
Thank you very much. So every year we write a number of grants that are offered through New Hampshire Department of Highway Safety. These are federal monies that come available. For the most part, we usually get what we write. The captain in this particular case has done a fantastic job, and there were some additional monies that were available. They offered them up to Wolfeboro, and I think it just speaks to our excellent working relationship and cooperation with New Hampshire Highway Safety and Department of Safety. So that is the reason why we got this grant, and I just need an acceptance on it. If anybody, and the town manager to sign it, that would be, that would be good. That subject to your questions, that's it.
Okay, I'll open up the public hearing. Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak to this public hearing? Seeing and hearing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Any comments from the board members? Again, I'll say thank you. We're very lucky that you write these grants and get these donations. It helps with the service that we can provide for the Wolfeboro residents and guests. Hearing no other comments, does somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the unanticipated funds in an amount of more than $10,000 in accordance with RSA 31:95B3A, to accept an amount of $12,300 from New Hampshire Department of Safety for the Wolfeboro Highway Safety Grant, and to authorize the town manager to sign the necessary paperwork.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Brad made the motion. Dave second.
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Luke?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is public input. 3 minutes per person, not to exceed 15 minutes in total. Do I have anybody who'd like to give public input? And that includes people virtually. Hearing none, we'll move on to the bulk vote. The bulk vote, we have weekly manifest. March 19th, it was $117,840.69. The March 26th manifest was for $369,134.62. And the April 2nd was $589,434.82. We have property tax refunds, tax map 231, lot 90, it was $31,011.24. Tax map 259, lot 39 was denied. Tax map 217, lot 127 was denied. And tax map 248, lot 6 for $419.63. We have 2 intent to cuts. And then we have timber warrants. Tax map 118.7 was $624.49. Tax map 268, lot 23 was $1,085.65. Tax map 235, lots 1, 2, 3 was $669.08. Tax map 58, lot 3, there was no tax. Tax map 136, lots 1 through 2, $1,188.64. Tax map 154, lot 13 was $982.53. Tax map 85, lot 1 and 4 was $5,452.04. And tax map 58, lot 3 was $642.85. Current use tax, tax map 23, lot 1 through 3 was $5,108. And there were a number of veterans and elderly tax exemptions. Can I have a motion to accept the bulk vote?
I'll move to approve the bulk vote items A through F.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, it was moved by Dave Senical, seconded by Luke. Are there any comments? Any conversation? Okay. Hearing none. Brian?
Yes.
Luke?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
And Linda votes yes. The next item on the agenda is appointments to the different boards. The first board is the Agricultural Commission, and we have Macy Gotthard looking to be an alternate with a term expiring in 2022. Wendy Rogers, term expires in 2024. Lorraine Strout, expires in 224. And Catherine Petronell, to expire in 2014. And David Strauss, an alternate term expiring in 2024. Does anybody have any comments or questions?
I'd make a motion to approve those 5 members you just mentioned to the Agricultural Commission.
Second.
I have a motion by Brad, seconded by Dave. Are there any board comments? Hearing none. Brian?
I just wanted to clarify, I think Catherine Petronell, it said it expires 2014 and it's 2024.
Oh, sorry, I must have read that wrong. Okay, Brian? Yes?
Yes.
Luke?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
And Linda's yes. Okay. Next committee is the Conservation Commission. I have on the list here Lenore Clark, member, term expires 2024. Nancy Bird, member, term expires 2024. And Jeff Marchand, member, expires to 2024. And I have an alternate member, Robert Gilbert, alternate member, expires 2024. Is there anybody here? Do board members have any questions or concerns? Okay, can I have a motion?
I'll move we accept these as read.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Dave, and a second by Brian. Any questions or comments? Brian?
Yes.
Luke?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
And Linda, yes. For the Economic Development Committee, I received a number of emails asking to be reappointed. First one is Kathy Eaton as a regular member until 2024. Liz Baker McLean, full term until 2024. And William Peterson, again, term until 2024. And we got an email from somebody who's just moved to town, Brian Elliott, who would like to be an alternate to 2024. Anybody here? Seeing none. Board members, what would you like to do? Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll move to appoint people as listed.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Dave made the motion. Brad seconded. Any discussion? Brian?
Yes.
Luke?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
And Linda's yes. Okay, Heritage Commission. Oh, no, Energy Commission. There are 2 members, 1 regular member, 1 alternate. Eli Roxbury wants to be a member, full member until 2024. And Warren Wilson wants to be an alternate with a term expiring in 2024. Any comments or questions? Anybody here? Can I have a motion?
Move to appoint as listed on the term sheet.
Luke made the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Dave? Any further comments? Brian?
Yes.
Luke?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
And Linda's yes. Next one is the Heritage Commission. First one is Ann Blodgett, member, term expiring in 2024, and Ron Bonzetti, member, term expiring in 2024. Anybody here? No. Any comments or questions from the board? Hearing none, can I have a motion?
Move to appoint as on the term sheet.
Brian moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Brad second. Any comments, questions? Okay, Brian?
Yes.
Luke?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
And Linda votes yes. And our last committee is Wolfeboro Waters. Abigail Adams, term expiring 2024, and Mary DeVries, member, term expires 2023. Does anybody have any comments, questions? Hearing none, can I have a motion?
Move to appoint those two members back under the Waters Committee.
Brad moves. Do I have a second?
Second.
Luke seconds. Any other comments? Hearing none. Brian?
Yes.
Luke?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
And Linda votes yes. All righty. We're moving on to new business. First item is pharmaceutical medical collection update. Mr. Pinio, who's going to speak to this?
I believe that Sarah Silk might be here to speak to this. Maybe not, maybe she's left. Chief Rondo, were you going to speak to this at all? I guess this is a standard thing that comes forward to us on an annual basis for the take-back. Basically, just need your authorization.
Yeah, it's just for a medical collection. It's done by the head of the hazardous waste, Sarah Silk. Police Department helps with it. The medicine collections are scheduled for June 19th and August 21st in Wolfeboro and September 11th in Alton. Any questions, comments from the board? We're lucky to have her do that. It's good to get those medicines off the street and also not in our water systems. With no further comments, do I have a motion from members of the board?
Just as an FYI, Madam Chairman, the event is approved by the Attorney General's office and also approved by the Boston office of the DEA.
Thank you. Anybody have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the pharmaceutical medical collections dates as you mentioned.
Second.
Okay. Any further comments? Hearing none. Brian?
Yes.
Luke?
Yes.
Linda? Yes. Dave?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is the ASME Fire Union update. Mr. Pinio?
Good evening, Madam Chairman. The weekly updates you've been receiving for about a month now, there's been information regarding the hourly full-time employees within the fire department wanting to join the AFSCME collective bargaining unit. I have no issue with this. And Chris Kilmer, the staff representative for AFSCME Council 93, is with us this evening, and I will hand it over to Chris to be able to answer any questions that you may have. Chris?
Good evening, thank you.
Are there any questions for Chris?
Dave?
Yeah, how many firefighters are we talking about being in this union?
So it will be 9. It'll be the 6 firefighters and the 3 lieutenants.
And my understanding, it's all going to be included in our ASME contract?
Yeah, that's one of the
Yes,
things.
ma'am.
Go ahead, Chris.
I'm sorry. So, yes, ma'am. So the idea is that we already have a wall-to-wall, what they refer to as the wall-to-wall contract in the town, where we don't have a singular entity. So they would be absorbed into the current contract, so we would not be asking or seeking for a standalone contract for the fire department. That group would be put into our existing certification. I would work with the town manager and merge their terms and conditions of employment, schedules, et cetera, into our contract, and then we would negotiate one contract, and those employees would be included in our future negotiations moving forward.
Board members, anybody else have any questions, concerns? My understanding from the town manager that the pay scale is easy to fit into the ASME contract.
So, yeah, that's correct, Madam Chairperson. Over the past couple of years where we've been working on the wage adjustments for the firefighters in the town, we tied that in with the ASME collective bargaining agreement relative to steps and to grades, which was done in the 2016 wage study. So the positions tie in nicely with the grades that are already existing.
The board, I see that we have a lieutenant and our fire chief or acting fire chief. Does anybody want to make any comments from the public, or are you happy with what has been said? Okay. Board members, Brian.
Is there universal support by the members who want to be in the union? Okay.
Any other questions or comments from this board?
And I think Chris can attest to the fact that the existing union members had no issue with this as well, correct, Chris?
That's correct, Mr. Pinio. I met with the members probably 2 weeks ago. We had a chapter meeting that was noticed, advised that it was to hold a vote to welcome the fire department in, and it was a unanimous vote by all members present to welcome them into the bargaining unit. So there was no issue from the existing unit. I answered the questions they had. There was no concerns, and they unanimously voted to accept them into the current unit.
Any other comments or questions from this board? Sure, come on. Just state your name for the record.
Steve Johnson, Wolfeboro. Just a question. Is this basically taking non-union firefighters and incorporating them to the union? You're adding new members?
Yeah, so that's correct. So I guess historically the firefighters did have a union. They don't have the number of staff to be affiliated with that particular union, which ended up over time becoming decertified. As a result, the firefighters have decided they want to be part of a collective bargaining agreement, and they went to ASME, discussed it. I believe they took all of the proper channels to remove the previous charter, and this, I think, is a good way to have the town and the staff work together.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay. My understanding, you don't need anything from us other than the consensus that we've heard, and we're comfortable with this moving forward, and for the ASME unit and the town to work out the contract, which will start sometime this summer. Am I correct?
Yeah, we'll start the union negotiations this summer. You know, and until we get that all ironed out, they will continue to work under the personnel policy until we get that all ironed out.
Okay. Everybody okay? No more comments, questions? All righty. We'll move on to the Laner Street parking lot. Mr. Pinio?
Yeah, so you should have in your packet a couple of documents, one being the Laner Street parking lot and one being the building which contains Mesoplast and burnt timber brewing. If you look at those, there is a problem based on the documents that we have in place where a significant amount of the parking lot is on town property. There's also 2 sewer lines, or on private property, excuse me. There are also 2 sewer lines that are on that private property. We've had numerous conversations with the building owner. Building owner's not able to make it here this evening. He has a previous commitment. But what he would like to be able to do is work with the town and see if we can come up with a boundary adjustment which would mean an equal swap of land, and the parking lot would become town property, and he would be able to have a different portion so that vehicles going through the parking lot would not be crossing his property, and those sewer lines would be on town property as well. At this point, we're really looking for authorization to go forward with an civil engineer to look at boundary line adjustment options, to come back to the town and say, is this something that we want to do to create a win-win situation? And I'll try to answer any questions you may have.
Board members, Brian?
Who will be funding the engineering?
So we will, as a town, will be funding a large portion of that. And I know that the owner, Mr. Crowder, is interested in working with us on that.
Any other selectmen? Dave?
Yeah, when I first saw this, it made a lot of sense to me that we should pursue this, only because the 2 sewer mains that cross over the property that we don't own, we don't have any easements for. This was probably over the years, way back. Somebody said, sure, you can run it across my property. Well, we find out now that it's on somebody else's property. All the other property that the sewer line is on, we either have an easement or we own. The 2 lots that we purchased a few years ago with the houses that we tore down, the parking lot as it is today, and these sewer lines go to the pump station on Valley Lane. So unless we have a different way to put them in, I think it makes sense, from my perspective anyway, to pursue this.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that I have seen, and we just saw it down here in the Latshaw building, the town was, in the past, did not have good surveying or didn't really know where its lines were. And so we keep on running into this. So it makes sense to me that we try to get this straightened out. The town ran a lot of its sewer lines back on people's property. I know the one coming down South Main Street, in order for the Children's Center to build the addition, they had to put it in a special kind of pipe so they could build over it. So this may not be the first time we're going to see an issue, and I don't think the town has many easements for its sewer lines. So it seems like in today's world it makes sense for us to get that easement, which I'm assuming is going to be part of this, and take a look at what possibly we could do here. My understanding, whatever you come up with will come back to us as a Board of Selectmen to have a discussion and to see how we feel about it once it comes back. Following up on Brian's question, how much do you think we're looking at for the cost to do this?
So Tavis has reached out to one of the local vendors who has a lot of our data on this already. Still waiting for the quote back from that. But we did have some recent work done for public safety locations, and those were about $3,500 a piece. So once I receive a good, solid quote, we will forward that to you in the weekly update.
And then at that same time, will you give us an idea where you're going to get this money from?
Yeah, absolutely.
Would the owner of the building, because he's going to be benefiting from this, would he be willing to work with the town on the engineering costs?
In my conversations with Mr. Crowder, he is willing to work with the town.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any questions on this? Okay, hearing and seeing none, we're going to move on to the next item on the agenda, the ladder truck update. Mr. Pinio?
Yeah, so to give you a little bit of background, been doing a lot of negotiating with the vendor of the ladder truck. We are down to the final straws right now. The town council has got the contract, which is being reviewed. We got a little bit more work to do there. But one of the things we're running into here is the price of the apparatus is ever changing due to the environment that we are in. We've got a price right now that is locked in for the end of April. Basically, what we'd like to be able to do is for the board to authorize the release of the capital reserve funds for the purchase of the aerial device with the unassigned fund balance so that we can get this locked in and moving forward. The truck does have a long lead time. It's about a 16-month lead time for the construction, and the longer we put this off, the further it could get pushed down the construction line, which could as well lengthen that time frame. Deputy Chief Zotti is here to speak on this, as is Lieutenant Dearborn, if you have any specific questions relative to the vehicle.
Sure, thank you. I'd just like to, number one, recognize Lieutenant Dearborn, who's the chair of our truck committee, and the members of that committee who've put in many, many hours of research and highly detailed work. If you notice this 3-ring binder, that is approximately 200 pages of specs down to the literally nuts and bolts. That said, what we're asking for tonight again is for release of the capital reserve fund so we can move forward. As Town Manager Pinio mentioned, we're looking at approximately 16 months should we be able to place the order in the next week or two. We have an arrangement with the dealer to provide us a loaner vehicle in the meantime, which in light of recent events around town, we've sorely missed our ladder one. And again, essentially, we respectfully ask you to allow us to move forward with the purchase as approved at town meeting.
And my understanding from the document we have in front of us that we're going to get $92,000 for the truck that we're trading in, our old ladder truck. Am I correct on that?
That's not the ladder truck. That's actually, if you recall, one of the conversations about this was downsizing the fleet by one.
Okay.
So this is one of the other vehicles that will be traded. They're still working through the particulars, and we're talking with the vendors about the best option for disposing of the existing piece of equipment.
Okay, so do we know what engine is going to be traded in?
Right now, we're looking at engine 3.
Engine 3 is going
which
in.
still has enough value to bring us the trade-in price that we're anticipating. We are still working with the dealer. If they are able to find a home for ladder one for some amount of trade-in value, we would certainly pursue that. And I would refer to Lieutenant Dearborn. We have an understanding of it, how we're going to remove it should we move forward. Again, if there's a department out there somewhere who can find some use for it, we are pursuing that. We're not holding out a lot of hope, but it is still under consideration.
Okay, so we're going to purchase this. We're going to get rid of engine 3. We're going to try to find a home for the ladder truck and maybe get some money. And in the long run, we will have less equipment than we had before this trade takes place.
Correct.
Yeah, the new truck does double duty, from what I understand, and it will do
Right.
what
This
the
is
pumper
this is
truck
what we
does.
call a quint. It actually has a pump, a small tank, the aerial device, and so forth. Very similar to the current ladder one. Probably the biggest difference that most people would notice is instead of what we call a straight stick, a ladder, period,
It has a bucket.
it has a platform, which has a number of advantages to us, not the least of which is the safety of our members operating up in the air and any civilians and so forth that we may need to evacuate or rescue from an emergency of some sort.
Does any other board member have any questions on this?
And just so you're aware, there is, as of the end of January, there was $942,000 in the capital reserve fund. So we have the funds in the capital reserve to be able to do this in conjunction with the unassigned fund balance as outlined in the warrant article.
So my understanding is you need a motion to, 1, remove $900,000 from the fire truck apparatus capital reserve fund and $480 from the unassigned fund balance.
All we really need is the capital reserve fund. I can do the rest through the contract under my authority.
You don't need a motion for it.
Okay, I'll second that motion.
Okay. The motion is to take $900,000 from the fire truck apparatus capital reserve account. Is there any other questions? Brad?
Yeah, I had one other question for Deputy Chief. It was my understanding when we talked about this originally during our warrant article process and stuff that once we had an agreement that this company was also going to provide us with a rental truck, I guess, to use, a ladder to use during this process. Is that still on
Yes,
the table?
that's still, and I believe, should we be able to move forward, we're talking about a couple of weeks.
Okay.
It would be delivered.
So the particulars of that is we will actually buy the vehicle for $1, put it on our insurance and everything, and then upon delivery and placing the new piece of equipment in service, we will sell it back for $1.
Question, how similar is the loaner truck to what we'll be getting?
You know, okay, it's similar to the vehicle we currently have. It's that straight stick we talked about earlier. But it would obviously, you know, it's an interim stopgap, but it certainly will be of great use to us.
Did somebody motioned?
You did. You did. You motioned
Do
it.
I have a second?
Yes, I
You
second.
Okay, I just lost track of that. All righty. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none. Brian?
Yes.
Luke?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
And I vote yes also. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the COVID task force update. Mr. Pinio?
Yeah, so we've had numerous meetings relative to some of the COVID task force. To give a little bit of where we're at, relative to outdoor dining is going to remain basically essentially the same way that it did last year under the governor's orders. So we're going to authorize the outdoor dining. Places that I know right now that are engaged with it would be Burnt Timber. They are actively set up. The Mexican restaurant next door, they are still set up, ready to go. And I also had a conversation last week with Bailey's Bubble. So those 3 parking spaces will be used for social distancing as well under last year's parameters. One question that I do have for the board relative to this, I would think we would want to continue the 5-minute takeout parking. I'd like to have a brief discussion about that before we go too far. Any
Okay.
thoughts?
Yeah, I think it worked last summer. I didn't hear any complaints, really, so I think we ought to just continue what we were doing, within the guidelines.
Yep. I'll agree with that.
Yeah, and I'd like to see the picnic tables going down in Cave
Yep.
Park. I don't think we need as many as we did last year, but that area was used tremendously in there. Isn't it also, there is a tavern on Mill Street, what's the name of that? That also is using its parking lot.
Yep.
Anybody know?
Lone Wolf.
Lone Wolf.
Yep.
Lone Wolf is the other one.
So all the restaurants are able to do that again. They're working with Tavis on that. And we will continue to put the signs back up. I'm not sure if they even ever came down. And we will work with Parks and Rec to get picnic tables deployed similar to what we did last year. As I think we've discussed already, for 4th of July, there will be no fireworks. Really, the reason boiled down to when we met, the contract had to be signed by the end of March. We couldn't find a good alternative place to launch the fireworks, and Brewster was not comfortable in allowing us on their property in that much advance notice. If we got into June and things were looking good, they said we could probably have a conversation. With that said, there has been some dialogue, whether or not we should do something around the Labor Day timeframe relative to fireworks, but fireworks will not be happening on the 4th of July. As well, we will be meeting on the 16th, but at this point, we're not going to be holding a parade. The task force has met, discussed this, and the organizers, in conjunction with the task force, which was made up of 2 Board of Selectmen members, myself, Parks and Rec, police chief, fire chief, we all came to the conclusion that it really wasn't a good option at this point to hold the parade. So the parade at this point is not going to be recommended to go forward. I think that is the bulk of the task force updates I have at this point. We will be meeting, I believe, on the 16th, it is, next Friday, to discuss some alternative options for the Independence Day weekend, which involves a whole series of different events. That's what I have.
We also had in our packet the spring and summer brochures from Park and Rec.
Yep.
Which is up on the town website. She's filled in as much of the information as she can, but there's still some of those events and classes that she still needs more information. She, and when I say she, Christine, our department head, posted it online, and at some point she'll print it, but she's not going to print it until she has better information to put in it, and it's a nice way to get the information out, yet still not have to print something that says we don't know what's happening. So she will make the changes as she decides on the different programs and numbers, et cetera. So is there anything else from the board members, and then I'll get to you?
Yes.
Luke.
So I have a couple of questions to Mr. Pinio. The task force is not that's not a governing body, right?
That's correct.
So there's no binding decisions that the task force makes that, for instance, if there's a parade application that was submitted by on January 27th that has been signed off by everybody except for the police chief and the fire chief. That is being held by the task force currently, is that correct?
I think the The task force is currently holding that, and I think that the discussions with the organizers was that we were going to hold it back at this point.
Okay. Is it administratively complete, though? Should that be brought before the Board of Selectmen for an up or down vote?
I probably should be, and I think we'll know more after our task force meeting on the 16th.
As I was reading through the notes that Amy had sent yesterday, you know, back in February, it looked like the decision had already been made approximately 130 days before July 4th to cancel it. And I just think that, you know, why didn't we go? I mean, the parade is something that almost happens by itself. And I know there's a lot of work that goes into it, but why didn't we kick it down the road until June 15th to make a decision? I mean, we're on the verge of right now, and the governor said today, because I had Joe Kenny ask the governor at the meeting today, I said, can you ask him about municipalities in July 4th? And it'll be for public tomorrow, but the governor said that New Hampshire should be working towards a normal Memorial Day on July 4th. And there'll be a memo issued tomorrow on that. And I'm just concerned that we rushed to make this cancellation where we could have prepared and given hope to people. And it's not for me, the July 4th thing. It's about everything that's going on in this country and the mental health of people and the hope of returning to somewhat normal. New Hampshire's #1 in vaccinations as of today. You know, 48% of our citizens have had at least one vaccine. 18.5% are fully vaccinated. We're doing incredibly well. I mean, the numbers. Health and Human Services Secretary for the state of New Hampshire a month ago said we're going to see an uptick in cases, but businesses and government needs to stay open through this. You know, we came into this thing saying, let's follow science. Let's let science guide us to make decisions. Well, we now know, we're now a year into this, and we can say, one, let's let science guide the decisions. We could space people out. We could make the parade route longer. We can mandate social distancing. We can ask people to wear masks. We could cancel it June 15th if numbers are through the roof. But for back in February to have this be canceled already, I have a hard time with that. And I have a hard time that it hasn't been put for a vote when the application is administratively complete.
Well, I think, Luke, let me just hop in here.
Okay.
We did this last time. We put them through. They went through the task force. They came and gave recommendations to this board. The board has not received a recommendation. That task force is still working. Okay. You're right. We will be the ones who make the end decision on this. But they're working with the group and trying to come up with something other than the parade, is my understanding. And I think we have somebody here from the Legion. So I'm going to let you speak, then I'll let the person from the Legion speak, and then we'll come back to have a further discussion by this board. Does that make sense? Can you just state your name so people know who's speaking?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Madam Chair and Board and Town Manager. My name is Jeremiah Burke. I'm a local resident. Grew up here, spent a lot of time in town, around town. Love the area, raising my family here. You know, the reason I'm here tonight is you know, I fully support some of the things that this task force and the ideas that they're coming up with, and in addition to or other activities that they're planning for or around 4th of July. But I also believe with what Luke said is that I think we should have a parade for the 4th of July, in addition to all the other festivities and things that are in discussion that the American Legion and the other members of the task force are putting together. I'm not here to try and convince, you know, or influence one way direction or another. Statistics and numbers, you know, everyone has their own opinion on parade, no parade, you know, things like that. What I want to just bring before the board tonight, as my wife and I were kind of having a discussion over this, we decided to post online on a public Wolfeboro Community Facebook page, just to see kind of what the public, the population was thinking about having a 4th of July parade. When we did that, I assumed that it was probably going to be a 50-50, yes, no scenario. And granted, you could have debate all day long on statistics and things, but to me it was very obvious, and I'll just show this in front of you, is we had 560 people that commented or voted in this poll, of which 90% of the population were in favor of having a parade. So it was a shocker to me, not knowing, what would be. But the public certainly came out and said, yes, we're in favor of a parade. So I would say, why is it that we have a parade, right? So the easy answer is to celebrate our independence. But none of us were there when living during those times of the Declaration of Independence. So I think that we have other reasons why we love the parade. For me, it was marching down Main Street as a Cub Scout, with my family. It was in 1986 when we won the Little League Championship, going to down Main Street with my team. Everyone has a different reasons around the festivities and family activities, and seeing the friends and coming together as a community. Everyone's reason is different. Now, as I have my children, I look and I see their faces, and I want them to have that same experiences that I think back to and the memories that I have, and it's a community coming together that have different beliefs, but everyone has their own reasons why, to participate in a parade. So I would just ask that as this task force moves forward and as the board debates and has discussion on a parade, the town needs to celebrate. This is the oldest summer resort in America. The community need it. The live free or die state is where we are. And we need to declare our independence from COVID and move forward and have a celebration. Thank you for your time and
Thank you for your input.
Madam Chairman?
I've got somebody here, and then I'll get to you.
I'm Tom Southern. I am the new commander of Harriman Hale American Legion Post. I'm replacing the irreplaceable Harold Chamberlain. You all know what I mean. The American Legion has sponsored this parade for years and years, and I can't recall how many, but I bet Howard was there at most of them. The parade was canceled last year because we were in the throes of the COVID, the pandemic. So there didn't seem to be any question about it then. So this year, the subject resurfaces, are we going to have a parade or not? When, Dave, you were at that meeting, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but there were some selectmen there, right?
2 of us.
How many?
There's 2 of us that are on that.
Okay. And not only selectmen, but the fire chief, police chief, and other members of the community, other leaders of the community were there, and it was discussed. Are we going to have a parade or not? What are the issues here? What are the potential problems? What are the risks? You think a parade, that's great. We'd love to have a parade. I don't want to throw this up, but back in 1918, we had a super spreader from a parade in Philadelphia. I'm not talking about anything like that now. But still, it was a parade. We're much better prepared today to deal with those issues than we were in 1918. But some people would say there is still some risk involved. Okay? So the gathering of this group took kind of an unofficial poll that was, it may be a little too soon to have a parade, mostly because of COVID. So with that, I don't think we got a hard answer like yes or no, but the feeling is maybe it's best we don't have it. All right, well, what else can we do? That's where these other venues and ideas came up to celebrate our independence, okay? We could say, do we have to have a parade to celebrate our independence? No, but it sure would be nice. Well, what can we do in lieu of not having a parade? There's going to be thousands of people coming to town, parade or not. And they're going to celebrate the 4th, our Independence Day, parade or not. You know, it's a gathering of family, friends who've been coming here for years. The parade is going to be missed. Unfortunately, we couldn't do it last year. So the committee's come up with some ideas to replace the void left by not having a parade, which included some venues around town. We're going to have a 2 or 3 day celebration. So there isn't focus on one venue where we got 20,000 people. These have including a boat parade, which I've asked Jeremy and his company to take part in organizing this boat parade. Wentworth had a boat parade last year, and it was extremely successful, and they were all raving about it. So I got some pictures and said, hey, this is pretty cool. You know, some parts of the lake, the neighbors all got together and organized an impromptu parade. And it was great. It was wonderful. People were yelling and screaming and playing music. They were celebrating Independence Day. Okay? There's some other ideas we thought, which are still in the works. A car show. We're getting the Chamber of Commerce to do decorations or sponsor decorations to homes and businesses and have a contest. We did a little bit of that last year, but we only had about 2 or 3 weeks' notice before we did it. And people were starting to get excited about this. Hey, we are going to do something. Maybe we don't have a parade, but we can still celebrate our independence. This will be like social distancing, but venue distancing. You know, the parks, the museums, the waterfront, the water. That's what we've been working on, our subcommittee, and we've come up with some pretty good ideas, and it seems people are excited about that if we don't have a parade. Like I say, a parade would be great. I'm not here, at least right now, to express my opinion on a parade or not. What I'm here today is to find out the selectmen make the decision on the parade. Is that correct?
Well,
So, is that right?
We grant a permit for the parade. The parade has been run by the Legion. We have granted a temporary event permit for the parade to go on.
Okay, we submitted one. Was that right?
I think that's what Luke was talking about. We do have the permit for the parade, but you have it on the 5th, not the 4th. This permit says the 5th.
Yeah.
Right? It says July 5th.
There's that too, yeah.
Yeah. So we do.
All right, the reason for the 5th, I mean, we can make it the 4th. The reason the 5th, the 4th is what, a Sunday?
Must be.
Mm-hmm.
Where are people going to be Sunday morning? Where should they be Sunday morning? In this community, they'll be in church. Well, right now, there aren't many churches open, but that was the idea. That was our concern about doing it on the 4th. It could still be done the 4th if we're going to have one. It's the question is, are we going to have one? Is it considered safe to have one? There are still some issues. You know, I don't think you can say, no problem, nobody's going to get ill, when they're standing 4 rows deep, shoulder to shoulder, some wearing masks, some not wearing masks. We're having an influx of people from all over New England and beyond. What's their story? What's their health history? What's their experience? I'm just bringing this up because these thoughts were brought up. Are we inviting a problem by having outsiders from this community come in and maybe bring some disease or problems with them? Perhaps. I don't know. I don't know what the numbers are. But this is where we are with a Legion right now. If we're going to have a parade, okay, we can get on it. 3 months is not too short a time. Harold would put this thing together in 6 weeks. True? Yes, true. Well, that's what he told me anyway. So, yeah, there may be some timing to consider here, but what's most important, what is this? What is a parade going to do to the community? We know what it'll do for the community. What's it going to do to the community? I've talked to some people out there, oh, well, that's okay, we can do without it. No, we can't do without it. Talk to some other shop owners, say, I'd be just as glad if we don't have a parade. You know, we don't need all those people here in town with the COVID still out there. We're not rid of the COVID. When will we get rid of COVID? Who knows? Who knows? We want to minimize the risk to this town from the COVID in whatever way we can. And it was the feeling back when we had that meeting that, hey, it's just too risky to have right now. We're not being unpatriotic. What could be more patriotic than the 4th of July parade? Some people would consider, is it absolutely necessary? No. Is it the right time? I don't know. I'm not offering any opinions on this right now. I'm trying to stay neutral on this topic and leave it to the board members. Like I say, we had the police chief and the fire chief at that meeting, and opinions were expressed. There were very strong opinions given. But after all was said and done, the majority of those people there thought, it's not the right time. Not yet. There's still fear. Well, there was fear back then. Maybe there's less fear now. Are we safer now? Maybe we are. I don't know. If you want some statistics, you have some statistics. Paul has some statistics as well. Should those statistics matter? I guess that's what we're going to discuss. That's what we want to discuss.
Yeah. And that'll go.
I'm just a final comment here. I'm a doctor, retired, Hippocratic oath. Do no harm. Consider that. Do no harm. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think I have Suzanne up here. Is that you? Suzanne, did you want to make a comment?
I'm just listening, thank you, at this time.
Okay, is there anybody?
I thought it was Mary that was going to try and talk.
Was it Mary? Mary?
Hi, yes.
Okay, Mary?
Thank you. From the Chamber of Commerce perspective, I think we're just like respecting that it is the American Legion who has applied for the temporary event permit. So we're just waiting to hear the Selectmen's response to that temporary event permit application. We have, for more than 20 years, messaged to the general public that the Independence Day Parade always takes place in Wolfeboro on the 4th of July, no matter what day of the week that takes place. And also just some anecdotal information that we're hearing that any activities that might take place in replace of or in addition to the parade this year in no way replaces the parade. In other words, it's very good for those entities and organizations that are putting on the activities, but for the general public, what they want is the parade. So going forward, any activities that are aside, if you will, from the parade may not be advantageous for future Independence Day celebrations in Wolfeboro. I hope that makes sense. That's what I had.
Thank you, Mary. Since we've gotten deep into this topic, is there anybody else? If not, Mr. Durgan.
Yeah, my name is Steve Durgan. I'm from Wolfeboro. I've had the pleasure to march in the parade many times during the last 50 years. Sometimes as a coach of a winning football or baseball team, other times as a police officer, and quite often driving a truck, pulling a boat that made up a part of what the 4th of July parade has become in Wolfeboro over the years. I'm so very thankful that we have people and a person like Harold Chamberlain, who over the last few years has dedicated so much time and effort for our community, along with the American Legion. Words can't express how we as a community feel about that, and several organizations have tried to honor him because of that. So I don't think there's any question but that's a part of our heritage. So the question becomes, why not have just a little bit more transparency in this discussion? It's obviously a controversial subject. The Board of Selectmen worked very hard, but how many unanimous votes did you have with very little discussion today? A lot. And they were adequately presented on the agenda, but I couldn't find it on the agenda. It was under COVID task force, but I didn't know it was there. I'd like to see the community have a little discussion on this to see where they think we should go, rather than just a few select people on a task force. Maybe it's not time to do it, but maybe it is time to do it. If not now, when? How much longer are we going to go on and be beholden to all of these things about COVID? Certainly our nation is having a great discussion about it. We could be a part of that. I went grocery shopping. My goodness, there were 500 people in that grocery store, I swear. I don't know how many of them got COVID, any more than I know how many of them 5 years ago got the cold. But I'm concerned that some people might say, hey, in the future, we don't think you should be walking around or holding school if there's a big common cold epidemic going around. So I think we need to discuss it. I like Luke's suggestion. I don't think we should have been making this decision so long ago. And I don't think that it's impossible to move forward a little bit with this and to put off cancellation until we know more. Goodness sakes, what if the governor or the president comes out and says, we're all set to open totally up? that would affect us. So let's keep that option open. As far as the permit is concerned, I can certainly understand the American Legion. They've done their job on this for an awful long time. But unless the people of the community know that we need to have a permit, everybody's just going blithely along their way, assuming that the American Legion's going to do it, so nobody puts in a permit. I know there was a brief discussion in the Wolfeboro Area Chamber of Commerce about the chamber maybe helping out in some way. And in fact, somebody told us that they thought that the chamber did it anyway, which we hastened to point out that no, that credit goes to the American Legion. So Mary spoke just a little while ago. Maybe we can hear a little bit more about that. What I'm looking for is transparency. So let's have some transparency. Let's open up. And if you have the courage of your convictions, let's not shy away from discussion. This is a democracy. Matter of fact, it's the best level of democracy that we get to participate in. I don't get to say much about what happens in Congress. I don't really even get to say much about what happens in our state. But dang it, I'm going to have some say in my town. And I think we need to hear both sides. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to clear up one misinformation that keeps on coming out. There's been no decision made. This has not come to the Board of Selectmen with any kind of recommendation. We got a task force. They're looking at all the different angles on it. I thank each of you for coming and giving us more input on this. The task force, there are a number of the people from the task force here, can go back and take a look at that, and if they want to have us have some kind of a public input time, we can. This is a hard decision on whether we go forward with it or not because of just the numbers that will be standing on the downtown. But there hasn't been a decision made. There was an application put on, and they went into work and talked with members of the town on whether they want to move forward. That's why this has not come forward to the Board of Selectmen. No decision has been made. Any other board members who'd like to make a comment at this particular time? I have one gentleman. I hope you can make it quick. Come on up and put your input, and then we'll go on and send this back to the task force for them to work some more.
I love to be brief. When's the task force meeting?
I believe it's the 16th at 10 a.m., I think.
Yep.
16th at 10. Okay. And one follow-up would be, Florida's been open up for a year. You could very simply do whereby come if you're comfortable, don't come if you're not comfortable, and just proceed as if you're going to open it up and just go. And I'll attend your meeting. And it's a hard job you do, so thank you very much.
Yeah, it's the 16th at 11 o'clock, not 10.
Okay, thank you all for your input. We're going to move on next to the rules, Board of Selectmen Rules of Procedure, the amendments. We added on responsibility as a member, number 6, members shall listen and respect the views of other members and shall use appropriate and respectful language. That was one of the amendments. The other amendment was that same sentence was added to conduct of a meeting, and then we added under we added a G, which is conflict of interest, and it reads as follows: members need to fully disclose at the earliest opportunity an actual or perceived conflict of interest. A conflict of interest is defined in RSA 21-G 21-2 as conflict of interest means a situation, circumstance of financial interest which has the potential to cause a private interest to interfere with the proper exercise of a public duty. And then in the New Hampshire Municipal Association 2019, Knowing Your Territory, defines a conflict of interest as a direct, personal, pecuniary interest in the outcome. And those were the three changes that we made to our rules of procedure. At the meeting on March 17th, we had a motion. I made the motion. It was seconded by Luke to approve the rules and procedures for the Board of Selectmen as amended. And we also did similar rules of procedure for commissions and committees of the Board of Selectmen. So is there any comments, questions, concerns by members of the public on the changes, either to this or the wording that we added for the commissions and committees? Okay, so we had the motion at the last meeting, so I'll go through and get the vote. Brian?
Yes.
Luke?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The next document we have is a code of ethics for boards, committees, commissions, and members. Again, this is the second time I think you've seen this. Does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns? Hearing none. Can I have a motion?
I move to adopt the Code of Ethics for boards, committees, commission members.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Brian?
Yes.
Luke?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
And Linda votes yes. The next item on the agenda is the assignment of board members to board committees and commissions. I sent this out to the boards ahead of time. I will read and check in with the members of the board if that, where I've assigned them, they are okay with it. Where I had two people who wanted to be on a committee, I did edit an alternate position. I think I've gotten most everybody where they want to go. I'm still looking for an alternate to the planning board, and I need somebody for the Wolfeboro Historic Society. So as I come down to those, if anybody would like to volunteer, that would be great. Agricultural Commission, Dave?
Yep.
Budget Committee, Brian?
Yep.
And I will be the alternate to that one. The Cable TV Advisory Committee, Luke and Brian, you okay with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Carroll County Transit, Dave?
Yep.
Chamber of Commerce, Luke?
Yep.
And I'll be the alternate for that. Capital Improvement Committee, I'll be the member. Brian, alternate?
Yes.
Okay. Conservation Commission, Dave, I believe we appointed you a year or so ago, so you still have a term there. Economic Development Committee, Brian?
Yes.
And I'll be the alternate. Emergency Management Committee, Dave?
Yep.
And Luke, will you be the alternate to that? Is that okay, Luke?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Emergency Operation Planning, that'll be myself and Luke. Is that okay? Energy Committee, Brian?
Yes.
Friends of Abenaki, Dave?
Yep.
Friends of the Libby Museum, Brad?
Yep.
I'll take Friends of the Town Hall. They hardly ever meet anymore. Hazardous Mitigation, Brad?
Yep.
Heritage Commission, Luke?
Yes.
I'll do the library. The Wolfeboro Milfoil Committee I'll be on, and Brian, want to join me?
Yes.
Negotiations, Dave?
Yep.
Planning Board, Brad?
Yep.
Is there anybody here who's willing to be the alternate to the Planning Board? I guess we'll leave that one vacant because I can't do that because if Rogers sometimes goes before them.
I just can't miss any meetings then.
You can't, or you're just going to have to call somebody and say, you got to get there. Police Commission, Luke?
Yes.
Public Safety Building, Luke and Dave?
Yes.
Last night, Wolfeboro, which is the subcommittee of the EDC, I'm going to do that. Is there anybody on the board who'd like to join me? Okay. Town Dock Committee, I'm going to be on it, and Brian?
Yes.
Join me. Community TV, Brad?
Yep.
Wolfeboro Historical Society, do I have anybody who's willing to do that?
Yes.
Thank you, Luke. And Wolfeboro Waters, I will do, and Luke, will you join me on that?
Yes.
Okay. That takes care of our committee assignments. Okay, other business. I got an email from Amy saying that Tuftonboro would like to walk the town boundaries. And I didn't know if anybody would like to volunteer to walk the town line.
Little explanation, please.
Well, you go out and they'll tell you there's a line between where Wolfeboro is and where Tuftonboro is, and you walk down the line saying, yep, that's the marker, yep, that's the marker, and every 10 years you need to go walk your town boundaries.
Sure, I'll do that.
I'm in.
Okay?
Well, we can go together.
Luke and Brian, I'll do it when it comes Wolfeboro and Durham, because that's out by me. But that'll be great. So I will tell Amy it's going to be Luke and Brian. Thank you very much.
What date is that?
All righty. Only other piece of other business, I just want to point out to the board that we received a note from Dave Ford saying that the state was going to no longer pay the state aid grant on our RIB bond. There was an amendment on the floor today, which would have restored the funding, and it was 2021 1093H. I called John McDonald. He was going to get a hold of Brody, and both John McDonald and Brody voted for that amendment. I'm sorry to say that it failed, and it failed 186 to 174. So this in 2013, 12, 13, and 14, the state also stopped paying on this bond. It's 30%, and it cost the taxpayers $445,000 for those 3 years that we did not receive the money from the state, nor did they repay us. John McDonald is hoping that maybe there is some federal money coming through that we might get, but this is the second time that the state of New Hampshire is not following through on a loan to the town of Wolfeboro and is pushing the expense down to the local taxpayers. And I thank our representatives for their support. Does anybody else have any other business? We're going to go through there's another public input at the end. I'll let you do that. We need to finish our routine here. Committee reports. Brian? Your report would be as you attended the Budget Committee meeting.
Oh, that's it? Yeah, I attended the Budget Committee meeting, and Linda guided me, and it was a very interesting meeting, and I hope that I'll be able to go in and look at the budget in a very detailed fashion and understand the workings of our finances in the town.
Thanks. Luke?
No report.
Okay. Dave?
Well, I think we all had a Libby meeting recently.
Yep.
Also, we've had another meeting in reference to the fire department building, the new building. We've come up and finalized, I think, the floor plan and the bay plan for that building. And we're now in the process of getting numbers together as to what this is going to cost. But the fire department will be staying at the location that they're at, and the police department will be moving to another location. So we're just about done as far as the fire department. The police department building, we know it's going to be 2 stories. We know that now. We don't know the exact location yet. But we have town-owned land that they're doing what they call a fit. They're going to try to fit the building on 2 pieces of property. And that means that because of the size of the lots in question, it'll have to be 2 stories. It won't be just 1 floor.
Thank you, Dave. Brad?
As Dave mentioned, we all met as the Libby trustees last week and had a planning board meeting last night. One of the main topics was meeting to go over the Stoneham Road. It's a scenic road for the Public Works project coming up this summer for some tree removals and stuff. And that was continued on to our next meeting, which will be April 20th. So that was it for me. And I do have Friends of Libby Museum meeting tomorrow night. So.
Okay, thank you. Well, Luke, Dave, Brian, and myself were lucky to be part of a recount of the vote of March, and it didn't change. Sean Coop still prevailed as a what?
I forgot about that one.
Yeah, as the police commissioner. Wolfeboro Waters has been working on a brochure. It also is working on the watershed management plan for Wolfeboro and Back Bay. And I'm pleased to announce that we have a Facebook page, and there was some information up the other day on how you can help stop runoff off your property. Special events of the EDC, which does last night Wolfeboro, is starting to plan for 2021. I attended a chamber virtual social, which was done very well, and it was enjoyable. I attended the budget committee with Brian, and Jim and I met with Back Bay Hockey to start talking about upgrades to the Pop Whalen Arena, and that's all I have. Town manager's report.
Yeah, so to tie in with what Linda just mentioned, we're working with an MOU with Back Bay right now to try and lay out the parameters of going forward. We're going to be meeting with they've already done a search for a vendor to do some engineering and some estimating for the project. So they've already got a lot of the work done. We should be hitting the ground soon running with that project. A lot of people may have noticed the front parking lot at Town Hall is closed off. Town Hall is open, but we've got a problem with some slate shingles coming off the roof, so we made the decision to close the front parking lot. We've had 3 contractors come look at it. An insurance claim has been filed, and now we're just waiting for the contractors to get back to us with their pricing and see what needs to be done. And then the last item that I have, I'd like to announce that Chief Scanzi of the Fire Department has retired. Wish him well in his retirement. And in the interim, Deputy Chief Zodi will be the acting chief. Thank you, Tom. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions from the press?
Not at this time, thank you.
Okay. Public input.
Thank you. I just want to add that if we have a parade, we're going to have to come up with some guidelines and stick to those guidelines. We have to have committees. I don't know if we're going to need medical opinions, parade opinions. I don't know. Anybody put on a parade during a pandemic before? I certainly haven't. But I say we're faced with, you know, some potential problems. So if we have a parade, we're going to have to come up with some good guidelines that people will adhere to. What those guidelines are, I don't know yet. We can come up with some good lines. Thing is, we want to keep our community safe, parade or not, but we need some guidelines. And that'll come up in committees, I'm sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to give us any public input? Hearing none, I'd like a motion to go into non-public session.
So move.
Second.
Okay, moved by by Dave, seconded by Brad. Brian?
Yes.
Luke?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Linda's yes.
Decided he wanted to retire.
Well, look at this.
He has his time in the retirement system.
Hey, Luke. Luke.